Once, two sibling gods, Doma and Mila, lived on this remote island known as Valencia. Doma, obsessed with power, despised mankind's corruption, and fought with his younger sister Mila, who wished for peace. Eventually, the two agreed to split Valencia, the north ruled by Doma, the south by Mila. Centuries passed. The gods' domains gave rise to two kingdoms, Sophia, the southern realm, and Rigel to the north. Both grew tactless. Years passed, filled with contradiction, until finally, two children were born to the royal families of Rigel and Sophia, who would reverse fate. Since that day, Valencia began to stir once more, moving into an age of war. Hello everyone, it's been a while since I've posted, about a couple of months, and a shit ton has happened. We've gotten the Hype Fest as E3, and with that, a new Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that game looks like it's going to be like no other Fire Emblem game. Speaking of other FE games that are attempting to be like no other Fire Emblem game, and a poor segue, let me welcome you to Fire Emblem Gaiden. Now, before we begin, let me get one thing out of the way. Yes, Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valencia exists. However, I'm treating this game as its own story since this game had been around for 26 years before Shadows of Valencia came out. So with that, this game will not mention its remake unless it's for a joke or a comparison. But with that out of the way, let's begin. Fire Emblem Gaiden was released on March 14th, 1992 in Japan for the NES/Famicom. Not even a whole year after Dark Dragon the Sword of Light, and sold up to 32,500 copies. Is this going to be a Final Fantasy situation where a game comes out every year for a while? Well, anyway, the game takes place on the continent of Valencia, which is split into two countries. Those countries are Rigel to the north, and Sophia to the south. All throughout the land, there have been reports of bandits and alongside terrors appearing around the realm. With that and the previous mentioned war going on between Rigel and Sophia, there's also the overthrowing of the Zophian royal family, orchestrated by a man named Dozer. But our story centers around two protagonists, the first of which is a young man named Alm. His story starts off the game with Alm having finished up training with his grandfather Mycen when he goes to the front gate of the town and meets with a man named Luca. Luca is looking for Mycen since his group, the Deliverance, wants Mycen to lead their forces against the aforementioned Dozer. However, when Mycen is asked about by Alm, he declines, and Alm joins in his place. With that, he brings along three friends, villagers Gray, Robin, and Cliff. Now with Cliff right off the bat, we have a brand new archetype. Cliffs are units that come at the beginning of the game, and with that have amazing growth rates, making them easy to become beasts when they get a few levels. So far there have been 5, but when we will get to the next one about 17 years and 6 games later. But anyway, after we leave the village, we get into our first battle, and there is right off the bat a lot to talk about. First thing you will notice is that every one of your characters is a class you do not recognize if you've played Fire Emblem 1. That's because Gray, Robin, and Cliff are a class called Villager, a sword-wielding class that when at the right level can promote to the classes of Mercenary, Mage, Archer, Cavalier, and lastly a new class called Soldier. Speaking of soldiers, that is the class that Luca is, a lance-wielding infantry unit that specializes in attack, defense, and HP. Lastly is Alm, who is of a class that has been changed up since the last game, the Fighter. In this game, instead of being an axe-wielding class, it is instead a sword-wielding class that is exclusive to Alm. So there is something to note involving weapons. In this game, unlike Fire Emblem 1 or other Fire Emblem games that will come after, weapons do not have durability. That's because in this game, weapons are treated more like they are in typical RPGs, in that they are equipped to the person as their weapon, and that will increase their stats or lower some according to some weapons. With this, you also have only one item slot per character to hold either a weapon or a new item called a shield, which is able to increase your defense by certain amounts. One thing I want to note for now, just based off this first map, since it represents a lot of the maps in this game. By that I mean, every map in this game for the most part is an open field with trees or like for the most part, which is something I don't mind actually. It's a common complaint, but for me it creates a feel that your battles are not huge scale battles, but rather small-scale ones building up higher and higher until the main fight of the chapter. Speaking of which, instead of each battle being a chapter, they're just small battles as part of the chapter. So with this, the game has 5 chapters and a bunch of small skirmishes. So after that fight, we go into another, where we see that there's a lot of trees, which is not a good thing in Gaiden. You see, terrain in this game is fucking bonkers, with trees being the kindest at giving 20 avoid. But this game, the terrain can give you as much as 60 avoid. If that doesn't scream insanity, I have no idea what does. Another thing that you notice is that I got Robin to level 3 and it tells you that he is ready to promote. This allows me to talk about the Gaiden promotion system. In Gaiden, promotion works as follows. Villagers promote at level 3 and can promote into the classes I mentioned before. Archers at level 7 who become snipers, who at level 10 become horsemen. Cavaliers also promote at level 7 to become paladins, who at level 10 become gold knights. Soldiers promote at level 7 to knights, who at level 10 become a class called baron. Mercenaries become myrmidons at level 7 and dread fighters at level 10. And then, when you get to a level 10 dread fighter, you become a villager again. I'll get back into that later. Male mages promote at level 12 to a class called sage. Female mages at level 20 become a class called priestess, a sword and magic wielding class. Clerics become sisters at level 12. Lastly, Pegasus Knights become a class called Falcon Knights at level 12. Now you may have noticed 2 things. First, that instead of 2 tiers of classes, there are 3. Another is that dread fighters promote into villagers. Know what this means? You can infinitely level them up over and over again should you want to. Though that takes more time than I feel anyone would ever want to invest in this game, personally. Especially with the dread fighter promotion gains, though I will get to that later. But anyway, after that battle you experience your first of quite a few dungeons in this game. Most dungeons in this game are about 2 or 3 rooms, the first being an entrance, the second being the battle of the dungeon, and lastly we have a room with a statue and 2 faces. These are called the lion head statues. What these do is, depending on the head, give you a stat buffs, or even in certain places, revive you from the dead. Yes, these faces can be your way of being brought back from the dead sometimes. Then the statue between the 2 faces is called a melee statue. What this does is allow you to promote a unit when they are ready to be promoted. When it comes to the 3 villagers, their choices come up randomly, though you don't have to choose the first choice that pops up. You can instead keep denying the option until you see a class that you like. In my case, I made Gray a merc, Robin a soldier, and Cliff into a mage. With this room, you also meet a cleric named Silk, who was taken by the bandits, and well, given the way that they are bandits, and they probably were about to do hell knows what if you didn't come along. But anyway, she joins your party, and we get our first healer, who is also part of a previous mentioned archetype. That archetype being the Lena archetype that I mentioned in FE1. She's also the first magic user in this game, if you don't make Cliff a magic user. I feel this gives a good opportunity to talk about how magic in this game works. In this game, since your weapons are equipped in a more regular RPG fashion instead of how it worked in Fire Emblem 1, magic works much different as well. In this game, magic is learned by mages and clerics who each get an individual spell list. Most mages have fire to start, while clerics have recover spell and a new spell called Nosferatu, which allows the cleric to drain HP off of their opponent. So here's the unique thing about most spells. They cost HP. The starter spell for fire and recover cost 1 HP per use, while spells can go as high as 10 for magic attacks and 12 for healing magic, which are called black and white magic, much like in typical RPGs. The only spell that doesn't cost health is Nosferatu, which makes sense given its severely low hit rate, and when it does hit, it recovers health for the caster. Now, aside from a balanced reason, why have this HP cost? Well, personally I feel it's a way to connect to the lore, and that mages give a bit of their life to the god and goddess that they worship. They sacrifice a bit of themselves to get the power they need to cast the spells, but mages are pretty powerful in this game, while in this game, allies and enemies actually have a resistance stat. They do not have a growth in this stat. Also, to make mages even more powerful, unlike last game, magic is affected by the attack stat. So if a character has, say, 20 attack and uses fire, it adds to the fire spell's attack damage. Something for the most part that has stayed in every game in the series after it. Anyway, after the next 2 battles, you enter the fort where you meet the Pegasus Knight Claire, who is the sister of the leader of the Deliverance, Clive, who was kidnapped for I don't know what reason, probably because she was the sister of the Deliverance leader. And also with that, you find a weapon called the Thunder Sword. This sword is OP and I love it. It allows you to strike from afar for a set 15 magic damage, which given most enemies have low res, that means you'll be able to deal at least 10 damage with ease. This is especially helpful with knights and the like who are pretty much immune to most physical damage, but magic damage, they'll be able to just not take it. Speaking of Clive, however, you make your way to the Deliverance Dungeon, where you have your first encounter with monsters, another new enemy type in this game that vary depending on the type. The common ones are zombies that are squishy and just there as EXP fodder, skeletons which are strong and have decent defense, and for now I will bring up gargoyles who are decently fast and have a decent amount of defense. These make you need a mage if you want to deal with anything close to decent damage to them. But when you make your way down to the Deliverance HQ, you meet Clive, who tells Alm that he wants to have him take over for the Deliverance. So with that, you get Clive along with his 2 allies, a soldier named Force and an archer named Python, who join you to go to Sophia Castle to take it back. Though, before you do, I have one piece of advice personally, and that is to make sure all your non-magic users, excluding Claire, are promoted. The reason I say this is that there are several promoted enemies on the map of Sophia Castle, which without promoted units in my experience make it way too much of a pain in the ass. Though, with this battle there's a little bonus you will be able to fulfill. There are 2 bosses, Slater and Dozer. Slater is a simple paladin, while Dozer is a tier 3 unit, a baron. To make things even worse, he has a shield called the Draco Shield, which in this game gives 13 defense and resistance. That means he's basically untouchable, but if you manage to beat him, here you get a Draco Shield. Though, good fucking luck doing that at this point in the game. But one thing that I feel should be mentioned is that Dozer is another member of an archetype. This time, the enemy archetype of the Michaelis. Anyway, all you really need to do for this battle is kick Slater's ass, and with that, Dozer will run away to fight another day. But with that battle done, you are free to go into the now liberated Sophia Castle. Inside, you will meet with people who tell you that Dozer ran off to Rigel, and that with it he took the royal sword, an heirloom that only royalty could use with him. But another thing to note is that an NPC looks at Alm shocked when you talk to him, saying that Myson never had any kin. You know, I'm gonna save that for later. When you go up the stairs, you meet with Myson. How the fuck did his old ass get up here without getting killed? Well, whatever. He comes in to tell Alm that he is to face his destiny and that a red-haired girl will come to the castle. That is when we get to the start of Chapter 2. Chapter 2 starts with our introduction to our other lord, a woman named Celica. She is departing from a monastery telling the Bishop Noma that she is off to Mila's temple. Noma in response tells her that she needs to be careful since Geese's pirates and terrors are abundant all around Valencia right now. It is also revealed that the land is dying, having been 3 years since crops have grown here, and that is why Celica is going to find out what happened to Mila. Noma also tells her that Myson left her in his care since she is the last member of the Sophian family. So with that, we've got one of the 2 kids mentioned in the opening. That leaves us to wonder who the other child is. Well, anyway, after that, and grabbing Celica's 3 allies, Jenny, Bowie, and May, they head out to the first battle of Celica's route, and I'm just gonna say this here. I hate Celica's side of the game. The big reason is the maps contain a shit ton of terrain that just makes the game maps tedious. For example, in this first battle we get introduced to the terrain called gravestones, and they can be the best or the fucking worst. What I mean by this is that gravestones give the most avoid in this game, that being 60. I have several, okay, actually, one question. Why? What the hell makes these have such high avoid? Do monsters in this game just obey that graves are holy or some shit? Like, or do they like have matrix dodge after they step on a grave or something? Like, what the hell? But either way, because of that, if a monster or enemy's on there, then good fucking luck hitting them, because those cocksuckers will not budge from there. But it gets way worse on Celica's route later on. But for now, let's get back to the game. After that battle, we make our way to the port town, where at the tavern we meet a drunk mercenary named Saber, who tells you to leave him alone and to let him drink, but at the same time, Celica still convinces him to join. With that, we get our next member of the Ogma archetype, Saber, who may be just the best one yet, honestly speaking. Oh, and speaking of archetypes, I forgot to mention this a few seconds ago, but Bowie is of the Merrick archetype. Something I meant to throw in here earlier, but forgot till just now. Now that we have Saber, though, it is time to talk about Gaiden's most famous invention, boat maps! You see, boat maps do not really contain bullshit terrain, just actually poor map design. You see, on these maps, you have just a plank to go on and hold as a choke point. With that, enemies will bum rush at you and fall at the person you have holding at the point's blade. Then once you get nearly all but one enemy killed, you rush in and complete the map. Rinse and repeat for all but one of these boat maps. Though, to break up the monotony between these maps, there is a battle at a pirate fort where 3 people are fighting against Daha's pirates. This is where the mercenary Kamui, the archer Leo, and the knight Valbar come in. Valbar is actually a funny story, since if you look at the cover, he is featured quite prominently, which makes you scratch your head, given that he is in no way in any part of the story after he joins, with what little story there is. But another thing that you should take note of is what Kamui says, that you best be sure to stay clear of the sea shrine since there are zombie dragons there. Yes, zombie dragons. If that doesn't sound kick-ass, I have no idea what counts as kick-ass anymore. But yeah, to damage them you need the angel spell, something no one has yet. More on that later. But we also have another boat battle to mention, and it's the fucking worst battle in the entire franchise, in my opinion. Okay, so looking at this map, it's just one guy, right? I mean, right after you make your first move, the victory theme is playing. But then when the turn ends, the guy has the ability to summon zombies. A ton of them, in fact. So, to get to him, you need to kill a bunch of zombies and clear the way. But wait, there's more. This bastard is standing on a healing tile, which gives him 40 more avoid. So good luck hitting him. I was fucking lucky to get this battle done in just 10 minutes, because it's taken me on previous attempts as long as 30 minutes before it gets irritating. This fight is not fun at all because it takes no strategy and it's just pure luck of, will you hit the bastard or will you continue to be fucked by his avoid? Something that when I first played this game back in 2013 I hated with a passion. It actually made me rage quit for about 6 months. Though this time I was lucky and killed the fucker rather quickly. Also in this fight I had Celica level up and she learned angel magic. So with that, I was now able to go and do the zombie dragon fight, which would be impossible without having angel magic for a few reasons. One is their high as fuck defense. Another is their high attack, and lastly their 8 goddamn move. Oh, and they fly! Only thing at this point that's effective against them is, well, angel magic, which is effective against all undead monstrosities. So with the help of Angel, I killed this fucker and then go to the shrine. So, after that shrine and a few more battles, the party arrives at a small port town where 2 familiar figures are, Paula and Katria. They tell you that they're looking for their sister Est, though we have not seen her yet. But then we make our way to Sophia Castle where Mycen is waiting for her, telling her that she needs to go to continue her trip, but before then, she needs to go up the stairs to see Alm. Though Celica is shocked to hear that he is Sophia's liberator, and when she goes upstairs, where both of them reminisce about their time together in Ram Village, where Celica tells Alm that if she stayed, Bowser would have found and kill her. When Alm asks her why, she cannot answer, but rather she makes a request. She wants Alm to not go to war with Rigel, but Alm refuses that request, saying Rigel needs to be crushed. Celica responds by assuming that he wants to become their king as well as their hero, which Alm denies. Alm also says he's looking for their last living Princess of Sophia, whom he does not know is talking to him right now. Though Celica just tells him that the royal family is dead, and then storms off. That leads us to Act 3. We start this act off with Alm fresh off the fight he just had with Celica, walking downstairs to the sound of an earthquake. When we go outside, we see that Alm and Celica's party had been split apart from each other. So from this point on, Alm and Celica will not interact with each other for a while. In fact, they don't see each other until endgame, which isn't a bad thing at all really. It keeps the parties from getting too big, but it means that we now have twice the maps per chapter to play. So with that, I play one map at a time. Though Alm's events aren't too much to talk about, so I'll start with Celica's first map. In this map, we have Paula and Catria surrounded by a bunch of pirates. And much like the aforementioned Valbo mission, you have to make sure they are alive by the end of the chapter to recruit them. But it is also worth it, as while Paula comes with a plain old javelin, Catria comes with an awesome item called the Angel Ring. See, what this little baby can do is raise your luck to the max cap of 40. Then it doubles your stat gains. What I mean by that is that if the holder of this ring gets a stat increase through a level up, that stat goes up by 2 instead of just 1. Now, for some lucky motherfuckers, this may not be the first time you see it, seeing as enemy thieves have a 0.014% chance to drop one. Which, if you make this happen, you are basically set. Though again, this is a super low chance of happening. But the next thing story-wise on Celica's side, since Alm's side takes forever to get to his story stuff, Celica goes to the mountain village where we meet Atlas, who is looking for someone to help him since he wants to go and kill geese and rescue his family. So with that, he joins, and he's a level 10 villager. Level 10 villager. When this game allows promotion at level 3 for these guys. So this guy is kind of a pain in my ass because I want to make him useful. Since he's just a strong guy and not much else. So I have to go all the way back to the Sea Shrine and promote him. And I made him a mercenary. Though, on Celica's side next, I feel like I need to immediately retract my statements on the Summoner map in part 2. The reason I say this is, while that map was a bunch of luck-ridden bullshit that can take decades to successfully kill the fucker, at least it wasn't a motherfucking desert map! At least I could move more than 2 fucking spaces max! So yeah, while you have 3 maps of this bullshit, where you go and fight on a desert on the way to geese, with that your units will move either 1 or 2 spaces max, unless you're a fucking Pegasus Knight, but even then on the first map, there's a shit ton of archers, and while archers don't deal effective damage, they're still gonna rain the arrows down at you at 3 range, and they can't do jack shit about it. Here's some gameplay to show what I mean.
Do you know where my will to live is? That's right! It's gone!
It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard knock.
You know what? Actually, I might be using these clips too early, because these fucking maps just get fucking worse. But I might be saying a warning to you guys a bit. Just a fucking bit too early. After this map, you enter a fort where you meet Jesse, who said he followed Geese's pirates, trying to get to S, but was captured. With you telling him that you're going to save S, he joins you. Speaking of S, though, he is one of 3 S in this game. Seriously, this is like one of the few archetypes in this game, and it has the most representation. Though to give myself a bit of a merciful break from this, we go over to Alm's side, which has gone through a few battles at this point when we finally reach a village. With that, we hear a few things. One such thing is that the fort we're right next to, Dozer has a woman named Matilda of the Deliverance held hostage in, and that she's about to be executed. Another is when we meet a mage named Ryuko, who tells you that his sister Gyut has been kidnapped and brainwashed by Tatara, who is at the sluice gate. But if he is defeated, Gyut will be set free. So to help with this, he decides to join you. Now we go a bit back and forth between the two again. First on Celica's side, we have two ways to get to Geese. You see, these two are Sonia and Dean, and they are part of an archetype. In fact, Dean in particular is part of two archetypes. First, with Sonia and Dean together, they are the Samson and Aaron archetypes of this game, while Dean is part of the Navarre archetype as well. And he especially lives up to it. This is due in part to the weapon he drops, or may come with, the Hero Sword. While this is the first appearance of the sword, it acts way different in this game than it does in others. In this game, what it does is it is basically a killing edge, giving 30 crit to the wielder. So Dean for this fight, since I chose to fight him and recruit Sonia, was a bit of a pain. At least I got my marked Atlas the Hero Sword to help him out. Oh, and witches have a 0.0055% chance to drop one of these, but after you defeat one of them, the other goes to Geese's fortress, and all that is left is to go fight him. On Alm's side, we finally get to fight Dozer and take him down once and for all. Inside his fort, he has Matilda locked up in a cell. At the same time, we have summoners summoning zombies to come and kill her, despite the fact that they literally cannot. But yeah, like most maps, you go and come in to kick Dozer's ass, which is pretty easy given the weaponry I got. Though Dozer says something pretty interesting when you bring him down. My sin. Is he planning to give Sophia to Rudolph's brat? Damn traitor. Rudolph's brat. I wonder what that could mean. After you beat him, Tatara appears at the end of Alm's side of the map, where he is basically be sending wave after wave of bow knights after you. Yes, he's literally bringing tier 3 units after you one at a time, and they can be tough sons of bitches. But anyway, when you enter the fort, Dozer had control of you. You get the treasure chest that contains the Regal Sword. The Regal Sword is a rather powerful blade that only those of noble blood can wield. However, it seems it can only be wielded by Alm.